Alrighty, welcome back everyone. We just talked about all the pro days that happened throughout the week and some reactions to that, but now let's get into some spring practice intel. There has been so much happening across the world of college football. This is the calm before the storm of the 2024 season, and a lot is found out in spring practice, and we finally have been getting some tidbits from across the country. So let's jump around the country in kind of a hodgepodge fashion and get you updated on everything that you need to know. Let's start in Austin, Texas, with the Texas Longhorns obviously making the move over to the SEC. A huge offseason for Texas, and it looks like everything is going as smoothly as you could have hoped if you're a Texas fan. Trey Moore looks like an absolute beast. The transfer from UTSA that absolutely dominated at that level a year ago. Looks like he's added some weight since getting to Texas, which was one of the worries for him. So he looks like he's up to speed. Now we'll hear more about how he's playing in scrimmages and things of that nature. But as of right now, you got to feel great about that kid. Ryan Wingo and Matthew Golden are two receivers that have been absolutely turning heads early. DeAndre Moore, another one. So this wide receiver group is as ridiculous as a lot of us assumed. I feel like they have 5 or 6 guys that could be playing every given Saturday and give them very good reps. So that room is as deep as they come in the country. And then the quarterback room is the thing that everyone is interested in. Quinn Ewers and Arch Manning look like they're going about business as usual. They look like they are absolutely on the money. All of them, or both of them, are showing up to practice and just kind of going about their business. They're both very no-nonsense, hard-working guys, so no surprises there, but obviously good news to see both those guys under good spirits, hanging in, or walking into spring practice with a lot of confidence. Let's go over to their rivals across the Red River in Oklahoma. Jackson Arnold looks the part. There's no two ways about that. This dude is an absolute beast. I said a couple of weeks ago talking about him, he's built like an NFL quarterback today. The dude is an absolute unit, and he can sling the ball all over the field. The arm talent is very clear. The big question mark is the O-line, and we've talked about that numerous times, but there have been some clips from practice that are not too inspiring when you're talking about this O-line. There was one in particular where one of their O-linemen that is slated to start this upcoming year was getting beaten pretty badly on one rep. But at the end of the day, that's one rep. Bill Bedenbaugh is one of the best offensive line coaches in the country, so not really worried about that O-line in terms of at least playing good football. The question is, if they play elite football, I think Oklahoma has a chance to really make some noise in the SEC. But if they play good to average football, it might be right around that Vegas odds number of 7.5 to 8 wins for OU this year. But let's move on to Georgia. We'll stick in the SEC here for a second. This O-line is as deep as it could possibly be. It's obviously something that Kirby Smart has been incredible at since showing up in Athens, but this is a really, really good group. They did lose Cedric Van Pran, that remarkable center that they've had for a number of years, but they feel great about his replacement, Jared Wilson. He is someone that has popped early, and he will absolutely be a big part of this offense in 2024, even if you don't necessarily notice him all that often. The back end of this defense was viewed as kind of a worry going into the offseason. Obviously, a lot of guys moving on to the next level. Kamari Lassiter, Javon Bullard, Tyke Smith, another. So they needed guys to step up. It looks like KJ Bolden is getting tons of love early. He is showing off his incredible athletic ability. And then at the corner positions, it looks like Dalen Everett and then either Julian Humphrey or Daniel Harris, are going to be the guys at corner. And I think that's a really good duo. Obviously, Dalen Everett has played a lot of football. Julian Humphrey was a guy that played a little bounce around game with the portal for a second there, but has found his way back to UGA. And I think it's a great benefit not only for him, but for UGA, obviously. Getting someone back like that has that ability is just huge. And then having Daniel Harris sitting right behind him and someone like Ellis Robinson, a freshman as well. This cornerback group is shaping up to be a little bit better, I think, than some people had expected. And then the safety group, we'll see take shape. Janil Aguero is getting the main snaps at star, it seems like. So a lot of stuff is taking shape out there. Malachi Starks is actually out for the majority of spring practices, it seems. So although obviously you don't want Malachi Starks to be out with any type of injury, it does give time for these younger players in the back end, especially at the safety positions, to get more reps and to get more comfortable. And I think that's something that could absolutely benefit Georgia in the long run. But let's move on up to Columbus, Ohio, and let's talk about Ohio State. Tons going into this year, a super pressure-filled offseason for Ryan Day and company down there. And right now it looks like Will Howard is running with the twos. It looks like it is him with the twos, Devin Brown with the ones, but that is not necessarily indicative of way the battle is going to go. It looks like, as of right now, the people that are in the know around there seem to think that Will Howard is still the leader, still the expected QB1 around there, but for the time being, finding his feet, getting his feet wet with the twos, and then kind of working his way up, it seems. Caleb Downs seems to be making himself very comfortable very quickly with this team, and that's absolutely huge. Obviously, Caleb Downs is someone that made an immediate impact at Alabama, but been a lot of change in his life over the last couple of years, and you never really know how a kid's going to handle any specific change, but it looks like he's handling it perfectly well and is fitting in really, really well, and that back end of that defense is downright scary. I won't mince words on that one for sure, but let's go to Coral Gables, Florida, and talk about Miami here for a second. Oh, excuse me. Cam Ward is the talk of the town. He is someone that they knew they were excited to get when he came in from the portal from Washington State after a brief flirtation, if you will, with the NFL draft. But he's turning heads very, very quickly. And it looks like he's very comfortable with these receivers. Xavier Restrepo is the guy for this team. There's no two ways about that. And it seems like him and Michelle Powell, a Washington transfer, are going at each other in practice, which is always a great thing. Iron sharpens iron, as you know, and Miami is getting more iron in the building. That was always the goal when Mario Cristobal took over and when this new staff came in, was this roster had to be rebuilt. There's no two ways about that, from the offensive line to the quarterback position to pretty much every position on the field. There were a lot of openings. There were a lot of holes, and they needed to rebuild them very quickly. And they've done a really good job for the most part. So they're getting more high-level players in there, and it seems like it's rubbing off on the practices because these practices seem to be just a little bit faster paced, a little bit higher energy than they were last year or the year before under Mario Cristobal and Coral Gables. So everything looking up right now for Miami fans. Another team that is getting very excited for their team right now is the Kentucky Wildcats. So Brock Vandagriff, we have talked about ad nauseum. He is one of my favorite players in the entire country. He's someone that I think might be the single player that could shake up the college football world the most if he can really take advantage of his full ability. We know the talent is there, but obviously stepping into a big new situation. But it looks like he's stepping in very, very nicely. Everything out of Lexington has been glowing, talking about Brock Vandagriff. He is obviously taking advantage of this situation. He was in a situation at Georgia where you're stuck behind two guys where it's going to be really hard to beat them out in Stetson Bennett and Carson Beck, and now you get the chance to take the reins, and you always worry about how kids are going to react, but it looks like Brock Vandagriff is reacting perfectly to start things. And then on the defensive side of the ball, it looks like a couple of guys, Tyrese Fearby and Jamon Dumas Johnson, the UGA transfer, along with Brock Vandagriff, are standing out on the defensive end. Both of them look the part. They both look like NFL talents. And with guys like J.J. Weaver and Deone Walker already on that defense, the front seven for this group could be absolutely mean, and they could really make some noise. I've been talking about Kentucky over and over, and there's a reason for it, because they are a team that could turn the SEC in college football on its head if they can put things together pretty quickly. And then we got two more here. Let's go first to Ann Arbor, Michigan, and talk about what's going on with them. We talked about how Sherrone Moore has been really under a lot of pressure and had a lot of hurdles to jump over when he first took the job in Ann Arbor, but things are finally coming to a little bit of a calming period. You finally get on the football field and stop worrying about all the stuff off it, like the transfer portal, hiring new coaches, all of that type of stuff. So I know he loves that, but the running back room, is looking strong, as we all expected, it seems. Led by Donovan Edwards, he's becoming more of that vocal leader with with Blake Corum walking out the door. He's someone that absolutely is huge for this team. I think he might need to be the vocal leader of the offense because a lot of guys left on that offense, and they need someone in the middle of those huddles to kind of that everyone respects, that everyone knows has done it, has gone through the fire, and Donovan Edwards is going to be that guy. And then Khalil Mullings looks like someone that is fully ready to take the next step forward and be that running mate that Donovan Edwards was for Blake Corum these past couple of years. So very excited for that group. I think that's a duo that maybe you don't talk about when you talk about the top duos in the country, but they are right underneath and definitely could break into that top echelon throughout the year. And then Jair Hill and Jaden McBurrows are two younger DBs that are starting to step forward. Will Johnson seems to be stepping into a very important leadership role. Rod Moore obviously got injured, tore his ACL earlier this week, so Will Johnson becomes much more important from a leadership perspective on the field. The other guys, Jair Hill and Jaden McBurrows and many more, become much more important with their play. So it'll be very interesting to see how all of that develops. I think Will Johnson is one of the best players on this team, if not the best. He needs to be a leader as well. So very excited to see him step into that role and see what it looks like on Saturdays in the fall for sure. And then finally, let's go to Auburn, Alabama, and it's all about Cam Coleman. This dude walked onto campus and everyone was very excited about him. They really wanted him to be the dude, and guess what? He is the dude. He is an absolute beast. He is someone that is going to be really hard to cover even as a freshman in the SEC, and Auburn needs it. They need a wide receiver that steps up. Obviously, he still is a freshman, so take everything with a grain of salt. We won't really know what he can do until we see him on Saturdays, but at the end of the day, this kid is performing really early on during his time in Auburn, and I think he's someone that if he can hit early and Peyton Thorne can have a go-to guy, this Auburn team, they might not be, competing for the SEC or anything like that, but they absolutely could play spoiler to a ton of teams if they can put together that offense a little bit better than it was a year ago. And Cam Coleman is a huge part of that. So very excited to see what he can do. I think he's someone that is going to jump off the page in 2024. But that'll do it for this edition of the GSMC College Football Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. I do want to thank Faith James and Andrew Tate for joining us again. I thought that was a great conversation. Hopefully no issues on the back end, but we will check that right after the show. But I thank you again for tuning in. Your support means a ton to us. So please remember to subscribe, leave a positive review. It does make a huge difference. Also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, all of the social pages for every update you could possibly need. We have tons of incredible people here covering every sport you could possibly think of, from football to WWE to baseball to basketball. So no worries if you need any updates on the sports world, come right to us and we got you covered. But thanks so much for listening again, and I will see you guys Monday.